Welcome back, geographers. Landforms and waterways. Central Africa is located along and near the equator. It consists of 7 countries. The main landform of Central Africa is the watershed of the Congo River. A watershed is the land drained by a river and its system of tributaries. At the center of the watershed lies a depression called the Congo Basin. There are high plateaus along most of its sides. The eastern edge of Central Africa is the Great Rift Valley. Here, rugged mountain ranges soar above a broad, deep valley that holds several long narrow lakes. Along the Atlantic coast lies a narrow lowland. Several important islands off the coast are part of Central Africa. 2 of these form the country of São Tomé and Príncipe. 2 other islands, Bioko and Pagalu, belong to Equatorial Guinea. This country also includes several smaller islands and territory on the mainland. The Central African Republic is the only landlocked country in this region. The Congo River and its tributaries account for most of Central Africa's inland waterways. They also form Africa's largest network of navigable waterways. A navigable river is one on which ships and boats can travel. Although the Congo River is an important waterway, cataracts, waterfalls, and rapids prevent the uninterrupted passage of ships from one end to the other. Cataracts close to the mouth of the Congo keep seagoing ships from traveling farther inland. Downstream, the river widens into an estuary, a passage in which freshwater meets saltwater. The Congo River is important to Central Africa. People use its water for agriculture and depend on its fish for food. The river is also a vital means of transportation. Finally, dams on the river generate large amounts of hydroelectric power. Climate and vegetation. The area of Central Africa that lies along the equator has a warm, wet climate. The average daily temperature rarely drops below the mid-70s degree F, low to mid-20s degree C. Humidity is high and rain falls throughout the year. Because of its equatorial location, the length of days and the weather do not vary much through the year. The midday sun is directly or almost directly overhead every day. Farther away from the equator, Central Africa has tropical wet, dry climate zones. These zones have distinct rainy and dry seasons. The dry season might last 4 to 7 months. Even the wet season can have dry spells that last several weeks. A tropical rainforest covers more than half of Central Africa. This forest is dense with vegetation. Broad-leaved trees are the most common. The forest also holds a wide range of other plants, including many species used in traditional medicine. Only about 1% of the sunlight that strikes the top level of vegetation, called the canopy, filters through to the forest floor. Because of the lack of sunlight, few plants can thrive at ground level. As shown below, certain conditions must happen for tree seedlings and saplings to be able to grow tall in the rainforest. In northern and southern Central Africa, rainforests give way to savannas. These are areas with a mixture of trees, shrubs, and grasslands. Experts believe that the size of savanna areas may have increased because of slash-and-burn agriculture. This is when trees and shrubs are cut down and burned in order to make the soil more fertile. After a few years, the soil's fertility becomes low, so farmers move to another area. When trees and shrubs return, the farmers come back and repeat the process. This type of agriculture leaves scars on the land, creates air pollution, and can trap and isolate wild animals. Supporters of environmental conservation worry that activities which harm rainforests threaten biodiversity. Biodiversity is the wide variety of life on Earth. They argue that if ecosystems are wiped out, valuable species will be lost forever. Natural resources. The country with the most mineral resources is also the largest. It is the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC. The Democratic Republic of Congo has large deposits of industrial diamonds, cobalt, copper, iron, gold, and bauxite. Gabon is one of the world's leading producers of manganese, which is used in the production of iron and steel. Gabon also produces uranium, diamonds, gold, and iron ore. Cameroon produces bauxite and cobalt. Equatorial Guinea has deposits of gold, iron ore, manganese, uranium, and diamonds. Some mineral resources in Central African countries remain underdeveloped. This is because of political instability, civil conflict, and the high cost of investment. In addition, the region lacks good transportation networks. Central Africa is rich in other resources. The DRC has the Congo River for potential hydroelectric power. It also has waterways for fishing as well as forest resources. Equatorial Guinea has large reserves of petroleum and natural gas, especially offshore under the seafloor. Cameroon also has natural gas, but these deposits remain undeveloped. It gets most of its energy from hydroelectricity. Early settlement. Around 10,000 years ago, Earth's climate entered a dry phase. This meant that the inhabitants of the region had to get more food from a smaller area. Starting in the north, an agricultural revolution moved slowly across the region. People began collecting plants on a more regular basis. They invented specialized digging tools, such as stone hoes, to help with this job. They learned how to clear plots of fertile land and plant a piece of each root or tuber they ate. Over time, hunters and gatherers became farmers. Cereal farming was the next step in the development of agriculture. This type of farming involved planting wild seed of the millet and sorghum families in the northern savannas. Millet is a grass that produces edible seeds. Another important resource was palm oil, which was used for cooking. Proteins and vitamins in the oil increased the nutritional quality of people's diets. This led to better health and a larger population in the region. The increased food supply meant that people could live in larger, more settled communities. This laid the foundation for village life and the development of crafts. In addition, people began using tools of iron instead of stone. They also began using other minerals, such as copper and salt. European contact and afterward. As European ships came to the region in the 1400s, Central Africa became a busy hub of the slave trade. This was because Europeans wanted a large workforce for their plantations in the Americas. In the 1400s, Portugal established a colony on the island of São Tomé in order to grow cocoa and sugar. Later this island became a staging area for the transportation of African slaves to the Portuguese colony of Brazil. In Gabon, enslaved people were shipped from the interior of the country to an area known as the Gabon Estuary to await Dutch, British, and French slave ships. The slave trade was part of what is called the triangular trade. This name came from the shape that the trade routes made on a map. In the first stage of the trade, ships brought goods such as cloth, metal, tobacco, and guns from Europe to Africa. In the Middle Passage, slaves were shipped from Africa to the Americas. In the third stage, ships returned from the Americas to Europe with goods produced on the slave labor plantations such as cotton, sugar, tobacco, molasses, and rum. European countries brought two important plants back to Europe and Africa from the Americas. These were cassava and maize, which is often called corn. Cassava roots are ground to make flour, breads, tapioca, and an alcoholic beverage. In the 1500s and 1600s, European countries began to practice colonialism. This is the political and economic rule of one region or country by another country, usually for profit. Europe's first colonies were in the Americas. Central Africa's rugged terrain and tropical diseases made Europeans less interested in colonizing there. In 1884 to 1885, Germany hosted a conference of European countries. The countries agreed on a plan to divide Africa into colonies that could be used for European profit. King Leopold of Belgium took over an area that became the Congo Free State. He wanted to make money on the area's rubber plants. Other countries colonized Central Africa. Europeans justified their economic exploitation of Africa in several ways. They claimed they wanted to promote civilization and to spread Christianity. Europeans sent many missionaries to Africa in order to convert the native people. At the same time, Europeans often treated African workers harshly. By the early 1900s, small revolts against French rule were common. People in the Congo Free State suffered severe hardships under King Leopold. In 1908, the Belgian parliament bought the area from King Leopold and made it a colony. Independent countries. In 1960, 4 French colonies became independent: Gabon, the Republic of the Congo, the Central African Republic, and Cameroon. In the same year, the Democratic Republic of the Congo won independence from Belgium. Many of these new countries experienced hard times after independence. Their people suffered through periods of ethnic conflict, harsh rule, and human rights abuses. In the Central African Republic, military officer Jean-Bedel Bokassa staged a coup. A coup is when a group of individuals seize control of a government. While in power, Bokassa ruled as a dictator and called himself emperor. Equatorial Guinea won independence from Spain in 1968. The first president assumed power in 1973 but was overthrown by his nephew in 1979. Portugal granted independence to São Tomé and Príncipe in 1975. The country has experienced instability and corruption since independence. Thanks in part to plentiful natural resources, some countries achieve stability in spite of political unrest. This is true for Gabon and the Republic of the Congo. The people of Central Africa. Central Africa is home to around 105 million people. The Democratic Republic of the Congo is the region's most populous country. Compared to other parts of the world, Central Africa does not have a large population or a high population density. However, it has a high population growth rate. The median age is below 20, which means that children and teenagers make up about half of the population. Life expectancy varies greatly. For instance, in the Central African Republic, life expectancy is about 50 years. In Equatorial Guinea and São Tomé and Príncipe, it is around 63. Hundreds of ethnic groups live in the region. Cameroon and the DRC each have more than 200 groups. Some groups live in 2 or more countries. One group called the Fang live in southern Cameroon, mainland Equatorial Guinea, and northern Gabon. Another group, the Bambuti, sometimes called Mbuti, dwells in forested areas of the DRC. Central Africa's population also has many refugees. These are displaced people who have been forced to leave their homes because of war or injustice. For example, there was a brutal civil war in the Democratic Republic of the Congo between 1997 and 2003. Thousands of refugees fled the conflict. Most of Central Africa's people live in rural areas and make their living through subsistence farming. This means growing just enough food to feed the farmer's family. However, there are also large urban areas, and the ratio of city dwellers to rural residents is increasing rapidly. Many of the chief cities are capitals of countries. In a few countries, such as Gabon and the Central African Republic, more than half the people live in cities. Hundreds of different languages are spoken across Central Africa. During the colonial era, people needed a common language, especially when they conducted trade. Certain trade languages emerged, and French became the most common trade language of Central Africa. Central Africa also has many religions. For instance, in the DRC, about 50% of the people are Roman Catholic. The rest are Protestant, Muslim, belong to a local sect called the Kimbanguist Church, or follow traditional African religions. How people live. Daily life in Central Africa is a blend of the traditional and modern. In the countryside, most people practice subsistence farming. They grow crops and raise livestock on small plots of land. If they raise more than they use, they can sell the surplus for cash. Various kinds of housing are found in the villages. Some houses are made of branches and leaves. Others are made of mud bricks. Still others are wattle and daub houses. In these houses, the walls are made by arranging narrow limbs from trees vertically, the wattle, and plastered with mud that dries hard, the daub. In many rural areas, women gather, produce, and prepare the food. The men hunt, trap, or fish for food. They also grow crops such as coffee, cotton, and tobacco for sale. Central African people eat okra, cassava, squash, rice, game, fish, and peanuts. Churches are important centers in urban and rural life. Church members gather for Sunday worship and other celebrations that involve singing and dancing. In many cities, traditional ways of life are yielding to modern lifestyles. However, modernizing is not always easy because Central Africa has little infrastructure. Poor transportation and educational systems also hinder modernization. The arts are important to the cultures of many groups. The Yaka create decorated masks and figurines. The Congo people produce stone and nail-studded statues. The Luba people are known for small statues depicting motherhood. The Mangbetu people are known around the world for their sculpture and pottery. The Fulani people are known for decorated leather goods and gourds. The region has produced well-known novelists, playwrights, and poets. The writers of Equatorial Guinea, formerly a colony of Spain, often write in Spanish. In music, African jazz, called OK Jazz, originated in the DRC. Drumming and flute music are also popular. Regional issues. Central African countries depend heavily on the economic activities such as agriculture, logging, and mining. As their economies grow, the region's countries use more resources. They also produce more pollution and waste. In addition, activities such as mining and logging take place in areas with high biodiversity. Critics argue that this biodiversity needs to be saved. The result is tension between those who promote economic growth and those who favor environmental conservation. This has led to conflicts between commercial interests and environmentalists, as well as between local people and outside groups. In addition, the question of control over profits needs to be addressed. Should the profits go to foreign corporations and investors, or remain with regional governments?